Hello, and welcome to part 2 of Basics of the Roblox LUA. So in the previous part we just talked about some simple Roblox things that are really general. In this part we'll actually start to create our first script that actually does something. So let me explain first. We're gonna make a brick that when you touch it, it changes color for 3 seconds and then changes color back. So I actually made an example, so I'll just let you look at what it does. As you can see, it changes brick color and it changes back again. It does that pretty much whenever I touch it, but not when it's already red. So let me show you the script that's responsible for this. So if you've never really seen a script or maybe looked at a free model before, this might look really impressive, but it's actually really easy, and with a little bit of knowledge of the English language, you should be able to do it yourself within minutes. So you're probably going to be reading this from the top down. That's how Lua does it. But because this is a function, okay, that's going to. So we'll start off with a debounce. The debounce value is currently set to false. Now I could explain you what debounce does, but first of all I want to keep on reading. So as you can see, here we have a function. So a function is basically a part of code that is inside a script. Now we can run this part of code anytime we want. So, but because this is a function and it's not yet called, Roblox will pretty much read over it. So it's going to jump from here all the way until it finds the right end, and it's going to go another line down. Well, there's nothing here, so it's going to go another line down. So here it actually finds something. When the script's parent, okay, so here we find something new. We find the word parent. So whenever you use parent, it's going to refer to the thing that's above the thing that we are referring to first. So here we say script. Script just means script without a capital, just means this script. So the script we're in right now. This script's parent. Okay, so what's this script's parent? This script is inside a part. So the script's parent is this part. So when this part is touched, we connect a function called changeBC. Okay, so maybe this is going a little fast. Touched is an event. So an event is basically when something happens. In this case, when the part gets touched. Now, here you see ..connect. This is called a method. So you always start a method with a double dot, then the method's name, then brackets, and then the arguments between brackets. So in connect, this would connect a function, and here we would use the function's name. So in this case, we're going to connect the function called changeBC. But hey, we've seen changeBC before, so we're going to go to this function. Now, if this function were to be below the script.parent.touch part, Lua would not yet know what changeBC would do, and it would give us an error. So that's why it's important to call your function after you're sure that Lua has compiled the changeBC. So we're actually going to go inside of changeBC, and the first thing we will see is if not debounce. Now this seems to be some weird kind of form of English. So basically an if statement does something if a condition is true. At default you can also set it to be not true, which is what I have done here. So if something is not true, then we're going to run code. So, but if what is not true? Well, in this case it's called debounce. So if debounce is not true, then we're going to run this code. Well, first thing we will do is set debounce to true. So if I'm going to hit this script part a second time, it's not actually going to run because debounce is true. So inside of this function, after the debounce is set to true, we will set the script's parent its brick color to a brick color value called bright red. We already knew this from the previous tutorial. Now here's something else that's new. This is called a wait. So a wait simply does what it says. It waits. Now the wait takes as argument a time in seconds. So if I were going to say wait 3, it's going to wait roughly 3 seconds. I say roughly because it's not the same every time. It might just be 3.001234. But because it's roughly 3 seconds and no one will notice it's just a little less or a little longer, that will be fine. Now, after this wait, we will want to set the script's parent, its brick color, to a brick color value called bright green, because that's what we started with. Then after we've done that, we've pretty much finished. Excuse me, my voice is getting rough on me. Okay, so after we've finished all this code and we set the brick color back to what it used to be called, after we're done with all this and we set the brick color back to what we wanted it to, we're gonna say the debounce is false. So if we're gonna hit it again, it's gonna go to the if not debounce and it's gonna find that the debounce is indeed not true. So then it's going to go into the function again and repeat it. So as I've just shown you, this function works. But now let's actually try to create it ourselves. So we're going to start with inserting a part. And for the sake of this tutorial, I'm going to make it black so you can see the difference from my other part. And I'm going to anchor it. Anchoring is quite a bit important because otherwise the brick will just fly away. So inside of this part we were going to be inserting a script. Inside of this script we're going to start with calling our function, just so we can find the logic of what we're doing. So when the script's parent is touched, we're going to connect a function called change BC, also known as change brick color. So let's actually create that function. Function change BC brackets end. Now inside of that function we had an if statement. If not debounce then. So for this to work we will actually have to create a debounce value. A debounce variables, Debounce is set to false. So if not debounce, then we're going to set debounce to true. So debounce is now true. So if we're going to try to run the function again, that will not work. So just for the sake of not forgetting, we're going to add in an end to end the if statement. So now we're actually going to set the brick colors. After setting our first brick color, you can pretty much set this to any color you want as long as it's not the same as you already had. We're gonna wait 3 seconds. And after that we're gonna change the brick color again. And now we're gonna set it back to what it was. And we're going to reset the debounce so we can run the function again. So the debounce is now false. So as you can see, if you just followed along, you see that you have now recreated the first script. We can actually go into here. As you can see, it's pretty much the same apart from that I changed the colors. So let's actually try and test that out by pressing F6 this time, because that's just a shortcut for going into Tools Test Player. So while we're waiting, I will actually tell you that inside of Roblox Studio, there's often two ways to do something, if not more. For example, you can also insert parts by right-clicking, saying insert part, or going actually to insert basic objects. And you can now insert any object you want. But anyway, let's go back to testing. As you can see, we had our old brick. It's still working perfectly. The animation have not loaded yet, but that's... oh, now they do. Okay, so let's try our new one. As you can see, it worked. Okay, you have now created your first script. Congratulations! This is the end of this tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, make sure to leave them behind. And I will hope to see you tomorrow.